Today is Good Friday. It's the day that Christians remember Jesus' death by Roman crucifixion, and it's kind of weird to call an execution good, but it can only be called good because of what Christians believe happens on Sunday, which is resurrection. And yet, calling an execution by an oppressive empire good sounds tone deaf to my ears, like government efficiency while thousands lose their jobs and millions lose their support. Like getting back hostages while 45,000 die in bombings. Like a peace treaty costing the loss of one's land. Like the person who told me it was good when my wife's breast cancer coincided with my sabbatical. Calling it good sounds to my ears like short-term high prices for long-term economic strength, like manifest destiny for my people and extinction for yours, like deporting hardened violent criminals and collateral sweeps of others in ICE, like being in a fatal car crash and only losing one of your kids. Why call it good? Why not call it Sucks to Be You Friday, or Fucked Up Beyond Relief Friday, or Thoughts and Prayers Friday? No, let's slam the lid on this idea of good. Let's seal up the tomb and pray the stench doesn't last too long of a promise of pie in the sky while we rot in hell on earth. Because good is getting whatever you want. Good is having everything you desire. Good is giving your body every pleasure. Good is getting it right now. Good is never having any hardship or struggle or suffering, your best life without your worst life. Are you good? Maybe our idea of good is fucked up beyond all relief. Maybe our idea of good sucks. Maybe our idea of good needs some thoughts and prayers. So we gather tonight on this Good Friday to think and pray about what exactly is good. And if Jesus is any indication of what we'll find, something is going to have to die tonight. And that will be good. Thank you. So my name's Tom Arthur. I'm the pastor here at Sycamore Creek at our Eastwood campus, and I'm the lead pastor over all three of our campuses. And before we go any further with this event, I think it's appropriate on a night when we remember an unjust execution of who Christians believe are the Son of God, who was also a refugee on earth, to take a moment of silence for all those who died unjustly this year. Will you take a moment of silence with me? There are 4 books in the Bible that tell Jesus' life, or the story of Jesus' life, and each one records a slightly different set of words that Jesus said as he hung on the cross. And Christians have a tradition of gathering on Good Friday to read and reflect upon those words, all gathered together as what's usually called the 7 last words of Christ. So tonight's poets have been given the prompt of one of those last words and its theme to either write an original poem or to perform something that they've already written that is in that theme. Some of the poets may be people of faith, Christian or otherwise. We didn't ask. Others may not. This is a diverse, unique, and creative way to reflect on the last words of Jesus. And I haven't heard any of these poems. I'm going to be hearing them for the first time, just like you. And we haven't asked any of these poets to censor themselves, so it might not be suitable for children unless you're my kids who are in the room and hear me swear at home all the time, and even occasionally as their pastor dad on the stage. So it's your call. Tonight is real, authentic, it's raw, just like an execution, the crucifixion. So the first last word is a word of forgiveness, and it's almost impossible to imagine someone being unjustly executed praying for God to forgive their executioners. But this is what Jesus does. He says, "Father, forgive them, for they know not what they do." And the theme of this last word is forgiveness, and the poet is misery. Give it up for misery.
One of the first times I felt genuinely older was when my dog scratched me and I realized how much longer it took for my skin to heal. What used to take days to clear was still streaked red across my arm weeks later, and even now rests faintly as a white line down my forearm. I carry collagen crudely stitched together in ways I did not in my youth. This 36-year-old body that was not built to outlive 35 does not divide cells fast enough or carry oxygen quick enough to hide the damage that has been done. In the same way my ego knits together fibers of forgiveness slower than it did before, I can still trace the scars left behind in my psyche, still raw and red, far past when they would have patched, and I wonder why it feels so much harder not to forgive the hurt, but to accept that the wound remains. Every Friday, I become a punching bag, boxing with others for fun, but the last time I took off work for an injury was one I suffered from simply walking down the stairs when I threw out my back. At some point, simply carrying a body of 30-plus years became more than my spine could handle, like how at some point I realized there was only so much space left to pack things in my emotional baggage before I could no longer shoulder the weight. It was not a question of forgiving, but of realizing that I am no Superman and there is a limit to what I can lift. Garaskophobia is the fear of aging. I worry about how my body will inevitably fail and become a mass of pockmarks and scars, unable to ever fully recover from life's inevitable accidents. But more than that, I worry I have reached a point where the betrayer's kiss stings as much as the point of the spear, and neither ever truly heals. Forgiveness is a resurrection, a casting off of pain and hurt to embrace a new life, but it is not an erasure. The scar is a reminder that every resurrection requires a death. And while resurrection is infinite, there are only so many deaths a person can suffer before all that remains is scars.
That was Misery, the poet. Give it up for him again. Jesus is crucified between two thieves, and one of them curses at Jesus, and one of them asks for forgiveness, and then this is what Jesus says to him. The theme of the second last word is salvation, and the poet is Jeremiah. Come on up, Jeremiah. Here's Jesus' second last word. I assure you today, you will be with me in paradise. Give it up for Jeremiah.
For those richer than blue, for those darker than blue, richer than quadruple zero, double F hue, there are fewer happy endings. No bows, just ships packed from back to bow with problems, cargo holds and shiploads, coal trains, billy cubs, satanic billy goats whispering about the worries. Tightrope walking people with electricity and water bills in their stomachs next to the butterflies, street rot people baked in cloudy sidewalks, concrete painted with vomit from hog-stuffed fraternity boys, pockets rich with green booze and red money and crayon-doodled fake IDs, midnight sprinting people merging with shadow flesh and defective dream catchers, those worries that steamboat up the thin canal of trachea only to be denied expression at the port of the mouth, glass-eyed people looking up at pearly gate walls. I tell you rather to look around because paradise falls. Sometimes the things that weigh on the spirit are cement trucks too solid for liquid speech. Straight-jacketed people thinking the world is black, white, wrong, white, coin flip people. Abraham's lips are sealed with copper filling, yet in his penny-toned speech, he tells you to spit your metal medicine on the chipped gray tiles of amoral reality. Effective immediately, we don't use words here. This jazz speak and crowded speakeasies, long tone whispers to fluttering stray horns, this pronghorn gallop where no language besides shapeless feelings and wild movements are needed to understand that the world is boxes, cubic containers housing people inside, box heads, paradoxes, axe the Stonehenge, or maybe Stonehenge for the ancient remedies to this world's modern problems. The old heads always seem to have all the answers somehow, although I think the cheese head in office currently is beginning to show his true colors. Snakeskin, heat tongue, ants under his egotistical manifest destiny magnifying glass heat gun. Check the letterbox and sign away freedoms. Warrior lung people fearing for control over their bodies and babies and destinies, thinking that hell is rising. I tell you that all is well. It's just that paradise fell. There are no lines in the sea. You're wrong. There's lines. See, under the ocean, the telephone cables, so Johnson could talk to the Soviets about the scariness of red intercontinental panic attacks, Cuban crisis, worlds wired to button depressions, nukes hidden like peekaboo babies behind fat punchy moons. Yes, we die soon, but first, give us a minute for speech and screams. We Minutemen, second women, plank children. Minutemen missiles come to barbecues on holidays like kinfolk and kill folk like us, I tell you. What if I told you my paradise can't be found in the halls of promised eternities? What if I told you my Elysium is music notation on a page destined for ash, like swarms of swamp flies glittering in sunbeams? What if I told you my paradise can only be felt nestled in the damp, fiery bulb of a horn's bell? The swing that keeps me steady, the swing is what keeps me breathing. And those 6-minute jazz riffs by Strayhorn, Holiday, Ellington, Basie, Fitzgerald, Armstrong, Goodman, Monk, Hartman, Baker, Coltrane, Davis, King Cole, Adderley are the only stairs I need to feel truly free, if only temporarily.
So if you're like me right now and you're like, man, that was dense. I got to think back through that. I wish I could read it. I wish you'd do it again. We are making videos of all these, and they will be on our YouTube channel. So you can go back and listen to any of these after. It's probably be sometime next week before we get them up there. Then give it up again for Jeremiah. While hanging on the cross, Jesus looks down and he sees his mother and his beloved best friend, John. He invites them to be family for one another. And the theme of this last word is paradise, and the poet is Truth the poet. Truth, come on up. Here's the word from Jesus. Dear woman, here is your son. And he said to his disciple, here is your mother. Give it up for Truth the poet.
Yeah, my word was relationship. But no, you said paradise. I didn't want people to not wonder what I was doing. When I told you I loved you, what I meant was the day God made you was a flex. Like, how you gonna create something breathtaking that breathes life into me? It's almost like he was trying to see if I were placed in your ocean of fears, would I dive or leave? See, I'm not like any guy you've seen. I mean, I won't front. I think your thighs are sweet and I wouldn't mind a piece, but baby, I'm trying to get your mind some peace. As far as that ocean, I'm trying to be Coast Guard, Navy SEAL, the one when baby feel that maybe still she ain't enough. Traumatic thoughts got you waking up, lost in deep thoughts, drowning in your sorrows. I perform CPR compressions on your insecurities. Because I understand where you appear to be, this moving so carefully, questioning sincerity with the mindset that happiness is nothing more than a parody. I get everything. The shit you was doing was scaring me. When I would talk, you were hearing me. It's like God was preparing me, making it clear to me that you, baby, you got to be the one I'm scared to leave. Essential is the air I breathe, half my size, yet you carry me. Shit, my therapy is just knowing that you're there for me. And what's embarrassing is the very things I'm cherishing, you don't even notice. It's just your day-to-day. This morning when I told you I loved you, what I meant was I want to be the one that calms you, the one who's never harmed you, the one who's on to you. When your face says resting bitch, that real aggressive shit. Yo, they get mixed messages, but I know what that expression is. It's not a mystery. You want consistency. Of course I'm listening because it's the little things that shows you're interesting. I blissfully thank God for what he's gifted me because not every puzzle gets its missing piece. I want to be the conductor of the symphony, better known as your heart beating or your breathing pattern while you're sleeping. I want to be the reason that when you was in your Donald Trump bag speaking of building walls, now you don't need them. The level of intimacy that would intimate with me, the sentiment would be that the best part about it is when we said we wouldn't leave. And when they go to write our story with Monsters, Inc., telling me and you how we supposed to be, tell them I'm supposed to beast for this beauty, the Aladdin for this Jasmine, for this Snow White, I'm grumpy, happy, and bashful. Real life fairy tale shit, happily ever after. I just need you to know I love you. Never forget it. That's all I'm asking. Thank you.
That was Truth the Poet doing Relationship. Give it up for Truth. Jesus quotes Psalm 22, which is the poetry and the prayer book of the Bible of Jesus' day. And Psalm 22 is known in the Jewish tradition as a psalm of lament. He's using ancient poetry and prayers to express his own sense of alienation and abandonment from God while hanging on the cross. Now, most lament psalms take a turn toward trust and hope. And while Jesus doesn't quote the whole psalm, scholars debate about whether he has in mind the turn to hope later in the poem. But the poet and the theme of this last word is abandonment, and the poet is Isabella Mansfield. Isabella, come on up here. And here's the word. My God, why have you forsaken me?
This poem is called Fig Wasp. 1. She is destroyed completely in the process, either becoming trapped inside the male, which serves its purpose only for her children, or becoming trapped inside the female, dying wingless and alone, leaving only sweet fruit behind. 2. She knows it will destroy her, and yet she is destroyed willingly. 3. The female fig, did you know they were gendered? Produces an enzyme that digests the wasp completely. The fruit will not mature until this is done. Sometimes beautiful things are born from self-destruction. Thank you.
Sometimes beautiful things are born from self-destruction. Give it up for Isabella. So death by crucifixion is a brutal and long drawn-out process. What ultimately happens is the one that's being crucified dies of asphyxiation. They die because they can't take another breath. They're unable to pull their body up to take a breath. they lose the energy. And Jesus experiences the physical toll of distress while hanging on the cross. And the poet for distress is Kiki. Come on up, Kiki. Here's the fifth of the 7 words. I thirst.
Hello, beautiful people. In high school, I thought my brother was paranoid when he would tell me not to go out alone. Truth is, he knew if something happened to me, that I wouldn't get the dignity of a police search party. He knew the sad truth because of the melanin in our skin, that regardless of our upbringing or background, that we would never truly be able to live in a state of complacence. We would never ease on down the road in blissful ignorance, because there is no truth in our safety. There is no corner of this earth where somebody doesn't see us as beasts, and my brother's beautiful mahogany skin triggers those with the ability to trigger upon him. So that is when I learned I would never ease through life. I would just be perceived more tolerable sometimes. I would never ease through life. I was just too naive to believe that I wouldn't be saved because of my dark complexion. I would never ease through life because in a second I could go missing, be trafficked, and spill blood on that yellow brick. The blood splattered, in contrast, might be seen differently if the owner had blonde hair and blue eyes, but the blood would come from a cycle of black tears, so I would be identified and maybe televised, just for the news to speculate what I must have done to get there. My brother knew that we could never ease. He wasn't paranoid for knowing that cost of a Black woman trying to be at ease. Thank you.
Thank you, Kiki. Give it up one more time for Kiki. And this sixth last word, the story as told by John, that is Jesus' closest friend, put Jesus in full control of his own execution. He willingly gives himself up and chooses exactly when he will die. Usually, a Roman soldier would break the knees of someone who's hanging on a cross so that they can no longer pull themselves up to take a breath. This speeds up the execution and, in some sense, is merciful. But John says that Jesus' bones were not broken. That's a reference back to Psalm 22, and that he chose when he died. In this way, there is a triumph. The poet for triumph is Janine. Janine, come on up and give it up for her as she's coming up. And here's the sixth last word. Jesus says, "It is finished."
Losing a religion. Beyond the window, some kind of small black thing shot across the sky. Haruki Murakami. Once on a run, wildflowers by the road, but when I called into the canyon, nothing came back. Once, I restored a ceiling, but water kept seeping, saltpeter, soot and dirt, too much efflorescence. I tried to rub a fresco with bread, dipped a sponge into wine. A statue looked sullen, bleeding at the eye. Each time someone loses a religion, a rock gets kicked up by a semi, leaving a fissure on a windshield the shape of a web, like the one spider that clutches in my house where I turn pages of poems, the landscape so dark, a patch of river drenched in light. I stole morel mushrooms from a church courtyard. I folded an omelet the color of transcendence. If I could, I would smooth all the stones. I would gather the world's suffering and arrange it into lilies, even as ants scatter over their petals. I believe in new edges, the trees rustling like breath, the grace of soft rain, knowing the long blade of violence will keep coming back. But when I open my palm, it bursts 1,000 small birds.
Give it up again for Janine. The seventh and last word of Jesus is a word of hope. While he's felt anguish and distress and abandonment, here he puts his life and his spirit in God's hands. Like a child who willingly trusts a parent and jumps off a diving board into the deep end, knowing that they cannot swim, but the parent can. The poet for reunion is Cassidy. Cassidy, come on up. And the last of the 7 words of Jesus, Father, I entrust my spirit into your hands.
Dear friends, since God loved us that much, we surely ought to love each other, John 4:11. Then we who are still alive and are left will be caught up with them in the clouds, Thessalonians 4:17. Clouds. Isn't it odd that we find such misery in the presence of the clouds, belittle them for darkening our otherwise perfect world, and yet that is where we have the rest of our existence waiting for us. As a child, you draw a smiley face on the sun and a frown on the clouds, as if rain does not bring life, and the sun rays that poke through the clouds are not the stairs to heaven, as if that is not the closest we come to looking directly at the sun. How funny that we are so quick to deem something wrong. How peculiar that we are so quick to discount the reunion of the waters of the sea and the light of the stars. Isn't it odd that we so fear the ground our bodies will gently rot and sink into that we chase the sky, when there is so much fresh grass to hug our footsteps here? Isn't it odd we do the exact same thing to human beings? For I was hungry and you gave me something to eat. I was thirsty and you gave me something to drink. I was a stranger and you invited me in. I needed clothes and you clothed me. Matthew 25:35. Has it occurred to you that Jesus is a refugee? For this reason, I bow my knees before the Father, from whom every family in heaven and on earth is named, Ephesians 3:14. Every family is named, every family is reunited, except for the ones that most closely resemble Christ. Because for some reason, those families are the ones we see fit to throw in cages, to separate by 20,000 miles in barbed wire, because we are one nation under God, and we saw ourselves fit to decide who that God really loves. The very belief in Christ is founded off of reunion, off of love and family forged, loving those that are different than us. Yet we ignore the last word that he said. You do not have to hold the cuffs. Silence is violence. When racism and ignorance slides from latent to blatant and the hopeless slippery slope is not mended just with thoughts and prayers. If you stand by while families are torn with no deadline to reunion, I just know that an all-loving and caring God must shake his head at you. When you hope for a reunion with him but scoff at the reunion of others no less deserving than you, I encourage you to remember the full phrase is not blood is thicker than water. The phrase is the blood of the covenant is thicker than the water of the womb. There were no blood relatives sat around the final table of Christ. Because the Almighty knew that love does not have a last name. It is not just those who you were born loving that you should continue to love. Reuniting people is reuniting souls, is living through him. We are praising a God who flipped tables at injustice. So simply discussing inhumane treatment, simply promising thoughts and prayers, because I know that is not what he would have done. It is not enough. One day, I think the two of us will reunite, and I will show him my accomplishments as a child shows their father a test that they scored well on. And I will feel like I have done some kind of good in this world when he points to an answer and says that he got that one too.
Damn, Cassidy, you were up here preaching. I have to invite you back on a Sunday morning sometime. There's 4 different books that tell the story of Jesus' life, and I want to read from the last little bit of Mark. It's interesting. In Mark, there are only 2 people that ever called Jesus the Son of God, and one of them is a demon, and the second one is one of the Roman centurions at the cross. There's no other people in the book of Mark that call Jesus the Son of God. Here's how Mark ends the story. Then Jesus uttered another loud cry and breathed his last, and the curtain in the sanctuary of the temple was torn in two from top to bottom. And when the Roman officer who stood facing him saw how he had died, he exclaimed, "This was truly the Son of God." You're going to have to come back to hear the rest of the story. You've got a couple different options. Tomorrow, our Potterville campus does a spirited service, a sanctuary spirits in Grand Ledge. It's a distillery that got turned into a church that now I guess we're turning back into a church on Saturday morning. We do a sunrise service at Cooley Gardens at 7 a.m. on Easter morning, Sunday morning. Because Easter didn't happen in a building, it happened outside in a garden, so get up early, whatever it is, whatever the temperature. Get up early at 7 a.m., come join me just off of Malcolm X, or 10:30 here at Stage 1. Join me again in thanking the poets for helping us here tonight. Now, I'd like to take credit for knowing all of them and bringing them together, but it's really Chad Sanders who knows all these poets, who is a poet himself. Give Chad some props. Go, have some coffee. Somebody take home all that coffee. Just take home a whole box of coffee. And go in as much peace as you possibly can.